What up, everybody? Power Book 2 Ghost Season 4, Episode 1. We got a very dark and cold introduction to Detective Don Carter, with Carter walking into the Catholic church and the bells ringing. Carter's scene opens up with him lighting some candles. This is something that Catholics do as a prayer for the deceased. Carter bows his knees next to the candles, doing this in remembrance of his dead wife, Denise. Then it shows Carter in the confession booth talking to the priest, reminiscent of Tommy Egan talking to Father Callahan in Power, but at the same time, very different. Not saying Tommy's scene at the church wasn't serious, but they were also more comical. With Detective Carter, there was nothing comical at all. I don't even think this man smiles anymore. And he also seems to be very dedicated to his faith, saying, "Father, forgive me, I have sinned," in a very deep and dark voice. Then he says, like the book of Ephesians warns, "I'm filled with bitterness, wrath, and anger." And this is something he's saying in a confession booth. These are his personal, innermost thoughts, like something you'd write in a journal and wouldn't want everyone knowing. The priest then asked Carter if he acted on his anger, and he said no. The reason why he hasn't acted on his anger yet is because he holds close to his faith. This is also a warning to be advised that once this man does act on his anger, he's going to be unleashing a straight demon. Then the priest told Carter, "I know how much pain you've been in since you lost your wife." And Carter corrected the priest and said Denise was not lost, she was murdered. The priest's next question was if Carter had given himself enough time to heal, or did he go back to work too soon? Carter replied that the task force keeps him busy and motivated. It's the only thing that makes him feel right. Then he said he knows that Denise would like that he's making the streets safer. And the priest told him that was a lot to take on. And Carter replied, he doesn't give us more than we can handle. So Carter is led to believe that the task force he is in is doing the work of God. And that sums up his discussion with the priest in the confession booth. Don Carter seems like he's going to be the reckoning in the Power universe. And now I can see why the trailer had the bell followed by the 50 Cent line, "Have mercy on me." But hopefully Carter's the one who needs mercy on him and ends up with a bullet to the dome by Tariq St. Patrick. But the fact that Carter jumped straight back to work after his wife was killed is very similar to how Ghost responded after Raina's death. All of his attention went to either trying to avenge her death, and after Tariq did that, he was still focusing his energy on taking out Drake. And when he wasn't focused on that, he was spending his time working on the QCP fundraising so he could build a legacy for Raina. Also, after Raina's death, Ghost turned harder to alcohol as we ever saw him, even though we don't know how bad he was when he was drinking back in the day before he quit. And it doesn't even look like Carter is trying to drink away the pain like Ghost was. But like he said, he had all the anger, wrath, and bitterness eating him up inside, waiting to be unleashed. This is also somewhat reminiscent to when Tariq went to Stansfield, and they asked him if he was going back to school too soon after his father's death. And he said he thinks it will be a good distraction for him. But the big question that everybody wants to know is, who is Denise? And have we already been introduced to her in the Power universe? And like I mentioned in other videos, I have one possible character in mind who it could be, and her death is connected to none other than Tariq St. Patrick. I'll continue to look for clues, but if it isn't this lady, then likely Denise is a character we haven't been introduced to yet, written into Carter's backstory as an excuse for him to be on some bullshit. The character who I would say is most likely Denise if she was already in Power, and that is the female cop who was killed by Kanan the night he was killed. The fact that Carter says Denise would like that he's making the streets safer lets us know that she was most likely also a cop. I watched this scene about 5 times after Friday's episode, freezing the screen trying to look at the name on her badge, but unfortunately I couldn't read it, and her name was never said either. And this is also the cop who I'm pretty sure put the bullet in Kanan that took his life. But Kanan split that lady's weave all the way back with 2 pistols in his hand and put 2 to the dome. There was another character who I also looked into. We can check off the list who could potentially be Denise. It was the lady who was killed by Brains after Tariq said his name during a robbery. This woman had a son who was a swimmer, and it doesn't sound like Carter has any kids. But it also showed this woman's wedding picture when you first walk into their house. Even though the picture isn't clear, I can definitely tell that the man she was married to wasn't Detective Don Carter. But since the picture wasn't clear enough to completely make out, and since it was also in black and white, there's a small chance it might have been her parents' wedding picture. So there is a chance that it could be this woman, but that would be a very small chance. Either though the reason this woman was killed would definitely give Carter reason to be on that bullshit. Then when Carter was walking out of the sanctuary, he ran into Paz Valdez. This also shows us that Carter has a schedule that he keeps because the fact that Paz knew exactly when and where to find him at. And it did seem like at least a few days had went by since Junior's death because Paz mentioned that they were closing the case. So it looks like once they closed the case, she turned to Don Carter, aka The Reckoning, for help. And let me say this before I get into how Carter and Paz could potentially be connected. Junior got what he had coming to him, having the audacity to target Tariq St. Patrick when he should have been thanking him that his father paid for his schooling to get the job he has in the first place. And Paz should have definitely reminded him of that when he said he was going after Tariq St. Patrick. And why is this kid and his mom want vengeance so bad with this family over Angela when Angela had no problems with the St. Patrick family herself? Matter of fact, the whole reason why Angela got her hands dirty enough to get wrapped up into the RICO case that the feds were building was because the fact she risked her career to help Tasha cover up the fact that Tariq killed Ray Ray. And Angela died in a very similar way to how Carter's wife died. She caught a bullet that wasn't even meant for her, as Tommy was actually trying to kill Ghost, but Angela saved him and caught the bullet. But Paz let Carter know that her son Junior, Angel, was killed. Angel must have been his birth name, named after his aunt, Angela, and they just called him Junior. And notice she said my son, not our son, just so this could end any speculation he was Carter's son, or some might still think that he's Angela's son. But Paz definitely said my son, Junior. And like I've said in other videos, Junior's father was named Manny. He was never actually seen on screen, but he was mentioned once in Power Season 1, when Ghost was originally supposed to take Angela to Miami before the shooting at Troop. But at the same time, we know nothing about Manny, so he could potentially be who ties Carter together with Paz. But when Paz told Carter about Junior, she specifically mentioned Tariq St. Patrick to him, like it was a name that he is already familiar with. And there's been a lot of speculation on if Carter is Ghost's mystery brother. This could potentially connect him to Ghost as his brother because the fact that Angela and Paz knew Ghost dating back to his childhood, and this could explain how they knew Carter. This could also explain why Ghost never talked about his brother. They were most likely opposites who are also very much alike. Opposites being that they were on the opposite side of the law. And if you go back and watch the scene with Carter in the confessional booth when the priest asked him if he has acted on his anger, look at the way he responded to that question. His response and mannerisms is very reminiscent to James St. Patrick. Paz mentioned Tariq's name casually enough to make us think that Carter knew exactly who she was talking about. But at the same time, she wasn't talking about him in a way like they were related, and Tariq is his nephew or anything like that either. One of the main questions I have concerning the Carter-Valdez connection is, why is Paz just now turning to Carter? Why didn't she turn to him after Angela was killed? And why did Angela never turn to Carter for help when she was a federal prosecutor? Then also keep in mind everything we know Carter says to Tariq when he has his face-to-face with him in episode 2. The trailer shows Carter telling Tariq his gut says Tariq killed Agent Young, and he's going to put Tariq where he belongs. But the season 4 trailer gives us more into this conversation with Carter telling Tariq St. Patrick, son of James St. Patrick, no code, no loyalty, you smell just like him. I know the truth. I know who you are, and I'm going to put you where you belong. So we know that part of that is talking about killing Agent Young, and he's obviously talking about putting Tariq in prison. But this also sounds like he has something personal against Ghost, saying that Tariq smells just like him and that he knows who Tariq is. Last season, we were introduced to RSJ, who also knew James St. Patrick. But notice that neither RSJ or Carter called him Ghost. So likely both of their ties to the Ghost and Carter's ties to the Valdez as well goes back to Southside Jamaica Queens and their childhood. And either though I hope we get into Carter's backstory and his connection to Ghost as well as RSJ's. But at the same time, there's a good chance that they're building these characters up to tell their backstory as part of the story of origins. And regardless of Carter's past, I already don't like his character, and I hope his future ends with a bullet to the dome with Tariq telling him, tell Denise Jr. and that bitch Angela that I said what up. Because I've actually heard people saying Tariq St. Patrick needs to get what he deserves. I say, hell no, man. Go watch Law and Order or something like that. Because I'm not trying to see my boy Reek go out like Nino Brown, Scarface, or even Franklin Saint for that matter. I need my boy to get that W and ride off into the next power book. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.